Hey guys, Will here, and today I want to talk about BlizzCon 2014. With the event coming up in just over a month, a lot of people are pretty excited for it, but we're all wondering what Blizzard is going to announce this time around. So first off, what a lot of people were expecting for several years now is a big announcement and reveal for Project Titan, the game Blizzard was working on for over 7 years. This was said to be Blizzard's next generation MMO, and while they didn't really release a lot of information about it, what we've heard through leaks and information from other sources is that it was going to be some sort of MMO FPS with a lot of elements from other games in it. We now know that unfortunately, Titan has been cancelled entirely, even after a reset that it went through in 2013. It's a pretty big disappointment for a lot of people, but for Blizzard, it means that they're going to focus more on their other games, and according to several interviews that they really want to focus on working on smaller projects. They didn't want to become known as the MMO company. They wanted to work on more smaller games. We've definitely seen a shift away from the big blockbuster games from Blizzard, with the focus on Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm, so it seems like they're focusing on smaller teams building more games, which they say is more like Blizzard's original history, and I definitely think that's true, but they also have been expanding the team for WoW, so I think that they're not entirely focusing on smaller teams, but I think they're definitely focusing on their existing games in terms of, putting more resources into those while having smaller teams make new IPs or newer games. The other big announcement that a lot of people are hoping for is another WoW expansion. This is pretty unlikely, but it is possible. History shows us that expansions have been announced every other BlizzCon, due to each expansion lasting about 2 years. But for a long time now, Blizzard has stated that they're committed to releasing expansions and content faster, but they haven't really delivered on that, with the possible exception of Pandaria's early patch cycle, which was pretty good early on. Later on, of course, we've experienced the longest content drought in WoW's history, but, they were doing pretty well early on. And with a huge influx of new developers on the team, they've said they've expanded the team by, 80% or something like that? It is possible they could actually finally meet those expectations and the goals of releasing expansions faster, but I still wouldn't count on it. With the talk about only having 2 raid tiers for Warlords, it is possible, but the past has shown us to be not too optimistic when it comes to Blizzard releases. I'd say it's much more likely that we'll see some information on Warlords' later patches, probably featuring the Grom Hellscream raid, and maybe some new features that are coming, like if the Heirloom tab isn't released yet, or possibly the new transmog system that they've been talking about, which is apparently similar to Diablo 3, as well as even the Time Walker system, which I personally am really hyped for. But I wouldn't expect an actual expansion. They did something pretty similar at BlizzCon 2009, where in addition to showing off Cataclysm, where they didn't really have a ton to show, they showed off a bunch of ICC stuff and everything coming in patch 3.3. With all of their other titles this year, I feel like there probably isn't enough time to show off a WoW expansion unless it's ready to be the main event. WoW always steals the show, it's their flagship product. If they have a WoW expansion announcement, I'd expect them to want it to be the big main thing and have several panels detailing it like they did at BlizzCon 2013 and every other BlizzCon that had a WoW expansion. It would make sense to me for them to wait until it's ready to be the real showstopper, instead of just showing a little teaser and then being like, well, we're not really ready to talk about that yet. I kinda doubt they would do that. And besides, if they really did announce a new expansion at BlizzCon, it would also take a bit of thunder away from the launch of Warlords, which is coming out a few days after BlizzCon. So I really doubt that we'll see an announcement, but I am still pretty hopeful for it. The one game that we are likely to see an expansion announcement for is StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 players have been waiting a long time for their expansions. Heart of the Swarm took a couple of years longer than expected, and Legacy of the Void has taken a little bit longer too, but it seems like it's about time for Legacy of the Void to come out. I believe that the StarCraft 2 and Heroes of the Storm teams used to, or still do, have a lot of the same developers, and so the work on Heroes slowed down StarCraft 2 development, but my guess is that's mostly been solved now, because StarCraft 2 and Heroes have kind of been split up now, and Heroes is its own game. In any case, StarCraft 2 is a game that really can live without any more content. Obviously people want more stuff, but StarCraft 2 can really live on with its current amount forever because of its nature as an RTS, and the player base just doesn't seem to be clamoring for more stuff. Everyone wants to play through the story of Legacy of the Void, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as new content for any other game. As for Diablo, a lot of people are expecting a Diablo 3 expansion, which I think is a possibility, but again, pretty unlikely. Reaper of Souls only came out this year, so we've probably got a few more patches to go with it, and there's probably a lot of content they could still do with just this one. I guess we will have an announcement for an expansion, probably next year at Gamescom, like how Reaper of Souls was announced at Gamescom 2013, or if they really can't wait, maybe at PAX. but I would expect them to show off some patch content for Diablo and maybe some new features this time around. As for Hearthstone, a lot of people are expecting an expansion announcement, and I would say that seems very likely. I mean, recently, Blizzard has been a lot more open with talking about future updates for Hearthstone, with them saying the next content release is going to have over 100 cards, which is quite a few compared to the 30 that Nax had. So my guess is it is going to be a full expansion and not another adventure mode, which, don't get me wrong, adventure mode is really fun, really awesome, but I feel like only 30 cards just wasn't enough to really shake up the metagame. I mean, some cards have been influential, but I feel like 100 new cards is really what people are looking for. That's really what people want right now, to really shake up the metagame and really change things around for a while. Hearthstone has proven to be really popular with over 20 million players. I doubt that's active players, but still, that's a lot of people to have at least tried the game, so it wouldn't surprise me if this actually ends up being one of the bigger panels at BlizzCon. Another game that people are expecting something for is Heroes of the Storm. It's been in technical alpha for over 6 months now, and with them just recently bringing down the servers and talking about nearing the end of alpha testing, a lot of people are expecting it to enter closed beta, and shortly after that, open beta. I mean, considering we've been talking about the game for 4 years now, it's about time. I actually feel like Heroes is losing hype and popularity due to the super long wait. I mean, tons of people want to play the game, but they just can't, and so it's not very popular right now. And I think that for a lot of people, when they finally get into that open beta or the closed beta, whatever, they're going to find that it's not as good as they want it to be, and it won't live up to the hype. But hopefully they'll show off some more features, some more heroes, and let people in. I mean, at least announce an approximate release timeline. So those are all the games that we know will probably have something at BlizzCon, but a lot of people are actually hoping for a couple more. The first of these is Warcraft 4. People have been wanting a Warcraft 4 for a very long time. Blizzard has said that they're currently focused on StarCraft 2 as their RTS, but that's kind of wrapping up with Legacy of the Void, so some people are hoping for an announcement of Warcraft 4. To me, it seems pretty unlikely. I mean, WoW's storyline is ongoing, and like, what would they cover in it? How would they avoid conflicting with WoW? But personally, I would fucking love it. I love Warcraft 3, I love the other Warcraft games. I think Warcraft is a great RTS, and it has more universal appeal, I think, just due to the fantasy thing, than StarCraft 2. I feel like a true Blizzard RTS that isn't StarCraft could really bring the genre back to the forefront, since MOBAs have really gotten so popular and just taken over the genre. You don't see like actual RTSs being played much, except StarCraft 2. And StarCraft does have a loyal fan base, but Warcraft's audience is so much more massive, as you can see with Hearthstone being huge, and Warcraft 3 especially is just so beloved. If they won't make a Warcraft 4 though, a lot of people are hoping for the next best thing, which would be an HD remake of the first 3 games. Something along those lines, or at least making them playable on modern systems, was talked about briefly at BlizzCon 2013, because right now you can't really play Warcraft 1 or 2 on modern systems without doing a bunch of weird stuff. Warcraft 3 is a lot easier to get to work, but even then, it's not super convenient. We haven't heard much since then, but I expect we'll get kind of a follow-up on that at this BlizzCon. Recently, some icons indicating Battle.net launcher support for Warcraft 3 has been found, perhaps showing at least some level of interest from Blizzard on the subject. I think there's definitely a lot of renewed interest from players in the first couple of games specifically, because Warlords of Draenor is talking about all these old events and characters, and the Warcraft movie as well. A lot of people never experience that stuff, and I think people are like, well, you know, wouldn't it be awesome if we could go back and play that? And even if they didn't make it HD, it would still be cool to actually play the games, although personally, I would prefer like HD remakes, and not just like texture updates, like a full remaster, like actually feel like a new game. I think people would really be into that, and would buy, you know, all 3 of them remastered or whatever for a $60 price tag. I think people would actually be okay with that. Speaking of the Warcraft movie, we're likely to hear more about that this time around. At last year's panel, we heard from the director, Duncan Jones, and we saw some concept art, but they hadn't even started shooting yet, so there wasn't really a lot to show. But now the filming has completed, as of several months ago, and they're actually working on post-production stuff like visual effects and editing. The movie doesn't release for about another year and a half, so we still have a while to go, but I know a lot of us are really hoping to see like at least a teaser trailer or a poster. It was kind of hinted last year that we'd get a trailer this time around, but that was before the release was delayed a bit. But I'm hoping maybe we get some cast members on the panel for a Q&A. I'm really looking forward to this movie. I think it's awesome that Blizzard and Duncan Jones are really trying to make sure that it's great and stays true to the series, and I look forward to hearing some more about it. So the last thing that might be talked about at this year's BlizzCon that I actually have not seen a lot of people touch on is Overwatch. So this is a trademark that Blizzard filed a while ago, actually filed by them, unlike everyone's favorite non-expansion The Dark Below, earlier this year. Because of their renewed focus on making smaller games with smaller teams like Hearthstone, and to an extent Heroes of the Storm, which also has a pretty small team, I think it's likely that Overwatch is another one of these smaller titles, maybe based on a new IP, because Overwatch doesn't really sound like anything they currently have. And Blizzard did have some job postings on their website for an unannounced game title, so we know they're working on something, even if it isn't this, and we know it's not Titan, so it probably is this. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to BlizzCon 2014 and all the announcements. I'm super pumped. Unfortunately, I can't go this year, but I am going to get the virtual ticket and totally watch it, immediately, and I'm really excited for it. But that's all from me for today. If you enjoyed the video or found it informative, please leave a like, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.